Let's move on to main topic number 2, shall we? And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Jared Oberfeld. And Jared Oberfeld writes, well, this sucks. Deadline is reporting that Wonder Woman is possibly going to be bumped off of its October 2nd release, and Dune may not release this year. Your thoughts, and keep it filthy. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, yesterday we were just all celebrating the fact that the Dune trailer dropped, right? I thought the trailer could have been better, to be honest with you. I liked it. Dune is still my number one most anticipated film of the year. It's going to be awesome. Personally, I thought the trailer could have been a little bit better, that being what it is. But we're all excited about Dune maybe coming out. Now, it's supposed to be coming out later this year. What is supposed to be coming out sooner is Wonder Woman. During the pandemic, we all know that a movie getting bumped, as Wonder Woman has already been a couple of times, that Wonder Woman getting bumped again is definitely a possibility. Well, there are other things that may cause Wonder Woman to get bumped that we haven't even considered. Check this out. This does come from us from the folks over at Deadline, and they wrote the following. With New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco movie theaters still not open, our exhibition sources are telling us, or are hearing that Warner Brothers is apt, they're thinking about, moving Wonder Woman 1984 again, this time out of its current October 2nd date to either sometime in November or possibly late December. And if they did that, that would bump the studio's legendary feature Dune out of its December 18th weekend to sometime in 2021. Tenet is another reason why. Think about this. I never thought about this before, but think about it. Tenet is another reason why Wonder Woman 84 may not be able to go during the first weekend of October, with sources currently estimating that New York and Los Angeles won't open movie theaters until early October or in late September. The Christopher Nolan movie will still need to make a big splash in those markets, or at least make its best effort. Having Wonder Woman 84 in Tenet's way won't help its hopeful domestic tale at the end of at the box office. So basically, we're sitting here looking now at a situation where Wonder Woman, which has been bumped a couple of times because of the pandemic, may get moved again, but not because of the pandemic. Problem number one is, of course, Tenet. If Los Angeles and New York, and we're starting to slowly see some counties, San Diego has opened theaters, Orange County is opening theaters tomorrow. So they're slowly starting to open, but the biggest markets like New York City, Los Angeles, things like that, still closed, may not open till October. That's when they really want to make a big splash with Tenet. Can't do it if they got their other big movie, Wonder Woman, open at the same time. So maybe we need to move it. Well, where do we move it to? Well, they don't want to bump Wonder Woman too much further because they've already bumped it a couple of times. So maybe November, December, not too far off. But if you do, you've got Dune sitting there. Well, then what do we do with Dune? So now we're looking at Wonder Woman getting affected. We're looking at Dune getting affected. And listen, Aaron, I get it. There's a part of me that wants to say, hey, wait, we've been waiting for Dune. Okay, Dune had that release date. Let's let Dune come out. Wonder Woman, you get pushed to February or March. I get that, but at the same time, Wonder Woman has already been delayed a number of times. If you need to push it again for Tenet, you don't want to move it much. Maybe by 8 weeks, something like that, but you don't want to get into 16 weeks, 24 weeks, whatever with that. And if it means having to bump Dune a couple of months, maybe that. So we could see an entire new reshuffling of things here, just for the sake of them wanting to make sure Tenet gets its proper Los Angeles and New York, the biggest city markets out there. Aaron, you're looking at this. If you're in charge of Warner Brothers, what do you do with this whole mess right now? What do you think the best approach is?
Well, if I'm in charge of Warner Brothers, what I'm also looking at are the numbers for Tenet so far. Outside of the Los Angeles and the New York market, Tenet is not it's not doing well, even with the theaters that are open and then practicing all the social distancing measures. Theaters are not seeing the sold out numbers that they were expecting. The numbers that Tenet is pulling in are just not that high from everything that I've been reading so far. So I think that they want to space that out a little bit more. I do believe that New York theaters are going to open a little bit sooner than we maybe thought, because just what was it, yesterday or the day before, it was announced that New York restaurants are going to be open for indoor dining.
Right.
So that gives me an indication that maybe New York is a little closer to opening their theaters than perhaps we thought. If people are going to be able to go inside restaurants and eat, obviously you don't have masks on when you're eating. That gives me an indication that New York is starting to slowly, open things back up. Theaters are not going to be far behind. Obviously, that's a huge industry in New York. If I'm in charge of Warner Brothers, I am just going to bump Wonder Woman to one of the big holidays, Thanksgiving or Christmas. And then even if Dune gets bumped to 2021, which obviously we want it sooner rather than later, but I want to see a much bigger rollout for Dune. I feel like the people who know about Dune and know that Dune is coming are the people who are already anticipating Dune, the people who already were fans of the franchise. But outside of that group of people, they're not Warner Brothers isn't really marketing the film and saying, hey, if you're not familiar with this brand, if you're not familiar with this, we're going to bring you in, we're going to teach you about it. Right now, everything's sort of all jumbled up with maybe it's Wonder Woman, maybe it's Dune, maybe it's this. I want to see Wonder Woman have its proper opening. And then I want to see the focus of marketing on Dune and then open it later. I don't want it to be shuffled around, and I feel like Dune just might get lost if we don't give it its proper marketing time separate from Wonder Woman.
Right. And, you're saying something that I was kind of talking about Dune is that I think, the comparisons to Wonder Woman 2049 to Blade Runner 2049 was that, Blade Runner trailers came out and a bunch of people raved about it. It's like, but my concern was these trailers are not telling people what this movie's about. I don't think Blade Runner is as popular amongst general people as other people think. And so the core audience thought it was going to be huge. It turned out to be a flop, even though the movie is great. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people are overestimating how much of the general movie-going audience cares about Dune so far. And that's why I really felt like when the new trailer came out, that trailer needed to specifically target people who are unfamiliar with Dune.
Yes.
And instead, I felt like the first trailer came out and it was specifically targeted at people like me who already knew about Dune and already care about Dune. And I think that might bite them in the ass later. So I think you're right. I think in this whole terms of with Wonder Woman and everything, you're going to want to make sure Dune has its own focus. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting to see. The question for you guys is, what would you do? I mean, this is, through no fault of Warner Brothers, this is a little bit of a mess. I mean, what do you do with it? You want to make sure Tenet gets a proper boom in Los Angeles and New York. Wonder Woman's already been bumped. What do you do with Dune? How do you approach it if you're in charge of Warner Brothers? Jump down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys.